I actually don't think food and pharma want us dead. I do think they want us sick and addicted for as long as possible.
Alex Clark is the host of Culture Apothecary and a prominent figure in the Make America Healthy Again movement. Yeah, like the Donald Trump RFK MAHA movement. And she's not afraid to take a controversial stand and stand up for what she believes is right. This interview was no exception to that.
You guys are frauds. Everything you do is for political expediency. When it's not politically expedient for you, you completely abandon all of your principles.
The Titanic was an inside job.
False.
Area 51 holds alien bodies.
True, 100% true. That is true. I want to be a content creator in the conservative movement. Great, there's a million of them. What are you going to be doing to stand out?
What are the things that the Make America Healthy Again movement are going to do to hold the pharmaceutical companies accountable?
I've never said that publicly to anybody.
I came in pretty neutral to this conversation, and I wasn't convinced that big food or big pharma were the problem, but I left the conversation, and now I'm looking at ingredient labels, and I'm noticing things I never paid attention to before. This is more than a health movement. It's an actual wake-up call. And by the way, if you enjoy conversations like this, make sure you subscribe to the Roll with Steve podcast channel. I have some banger guests coming up like Dr. Jonathan Maxim and Bart Sabril. Super excited for those. Alex Clark and I didn't just talk about Make America Healthy Again. She has an enormous, almost cult-like following, and I asked her directly, why is her podcast succeeding when so many others fail? It's rare to get this kind of unfiltered take from someone who's at her level. And in this episode, she actually laid out the entire thing that makes her podcast work and what it takes to do a podcast in today's day and age. We also had some fun, including a rapid-fire conspiracy theory session. This is one of the most eye-opening and entertaining conversations I've ever had on the show. So let's get into it. Here's my interview with Alex Clark. All of this seems so reasonable to me. What you talk about with Big Pharma, and them poisoning people with the food, and then pharma comes in on the back end of it. But the stakes here are high because it's people's life expectancy. It's how they're living their lives and how healthy they are throughout their lives too. Shouldn't all reasonable people agree that when you go back to this idea of the FDA and the conflicts of interest and the revolving door of folks leaving the FDA and going into industry, that that's a bad thing? Liberals, conservatives, all together, why can't we all agree on that? Why is this so political?
Well, liberals did used to agree that there was something wrong with food and pharma, and then I don't know what the hell happened to them. The pandemic happened, all of a sudden they got the marching orders. No. You have to be toe to toe with pharma. They are our friends, conservatives, anyone questioning any of these medical products, they are the enemies. And they just fell in line, hook, line, and sinker. That never used to be the case. In fact, it used to be the complete opposite. Conservatives did not give two flying flips about organic food, GMOs, pharmaceutical corruption. We didn't care. We didn't want any taxes on our sodas or, anyone infringing on what we eat. We saw that as a freedom issue, really. And now I have a completely different line of thinking. I think, when they keep us all fat and sick and chronically ill, that is what's infringing on my freedom. It's not my ability to be able to get, a Big Mac and all of that. But anyway, I digress. So conservatives never cared about this issue. It was really Hollywood liberal celebrities who were not vaccinating their children and who were drinking raw milk. Raw milk has been legal in California for forever. So that was very normal. And then during the pandemic, obviously the COVID vaccine, that started conversation. And then I started talking about hormonal birth control and concerns that I had about women not being given true informed consent about the hormonal birth control pill and talking about drinking raw milk. And it was like, well, this is far right extremism. This is dangerous. And I'm like, no, wait. I am the last person, honestly, to come to the table talking about these ideas. Regenerative farming and organic and all of this, these were very quintessential liberal values. That was a crunchy granola, if you will. Like those moms are who cared about this. They were who were shopping at Whole Foods. It wasn't conservative Christians. And so I just thought it was funny, this flip, because I thought, man, did you guys ever really care about this issue? Or was it all fake? Because we finally now are coming to the table saying, wow, you were right, we were wrong, we're humble, our tails are between our legs, we're like, man, we messed up. Like, look at where we are now, the rates of chronic disease in America. Half of American teenagers are now chronically obese. We're prescribing kids as young as 6 with Ozempic, as young as 7 Lexapro. What happened to us? We have really taken a wrong turn somewhere. Let's get back to the basics and figure out what happened. We start saying that and they want nothing to do with us. And I'm like, you guys are frauds. Everything you do is for political expediency. When it's not politically expedient for you, you completely abandon all of your principles. The left keeps getting further and further left. They have not stayed the same. They haven't been consistent in what they believe. I mean, now they don't even know what is a man, what is a woman, right? Whereas really the conservative right, we've stayed the same consistently. Like if you look at how far right we were in the 90s versus now, we've barely moved further right at all. But when you look at the left, the 90s to today, their views, their values, they're way further down the spectrum on the left. So they keep moving goalposts, whereas we've relatively stayed the same. And so I think when you compare the two, that's why to a lot of independent moderate voters, we looked in 2024 like the more sane party to vote for, because we are.
One of the most prominent voices in this idea of politicians being bought and paid for by Big Pharma is Bernie Sanders, who's pretty far on the left. But you hear that on the right too. My question is around if all these politicians are subjective to this Big Pharma lobby, this big food lobby, then you've got a prominent Democrat in RFK leading the MAHA movement, but we still can't agree, and they're going to disown him over this because now he's on the right. Now he's Trump country too. How do we actually get to change in the MAHA movement if our legislative leaders are all bought and paid for?
A lot of them are, and that goes for both the left and the right, which is why the grassroots MAHA movement is what is so powerful and pivotal. There is nothing more powerful politically than an angry American mother. She is going to go out and protest. She is going to vote. She's going to show up to every single school board meeting. She's going to be wherever you tell her to be. She's going to be calling her senator. She's going to be calling her congressman. And those calls and hearing from constituents, that is what makes the difference and sways these politicians. It's how we got RFK confirmed, because we were calling nonstop people like Senator Cassidy and people that were on the fence about confirming him. So they can be kind of bought and paid for, but if all of their base is in their ear saying, what's your stance on this? This matters to me as a voter. I'm not electing you again if you don't vote this way. That's powerful. So, social media constantly talking about this. That's why MAHA didn't just end in November when President Trump got elected. MAHA is going to continue because we have a lot of work to do. We really ideally to start to see a significant, reworking of the chronic disease epidemic that we're seeing in the United States. We really need 12 years. But we only have 4 with Trump in office, right, in RFK. So we have a lot of stuff that we want to try to squeeze into 4 years, and then we have to continue the MAHA movement long after we wrap up, this second Trump term.
Yeah. Looking for objectivity inside things that are, at least they seem inherently subjective when you're talking about what is healthy food, the role that pharmaceutical companies play in our lives, what should be okay, what shouldn't be okay. What I find striking is that you can find doctors on pretty much both sides of almost any issue now. Mm-hmm. And the differences now in the age of social media, I can get them both in my home just by swiping and seeing 2 different sides of it. How do people know who to trust when you have doctors on both sides of issues when it comes to big food?
Well, one, we've been doing the conventional medicine thing for, I don't know, the last 50 years, maybe actually 100 years or so. We've been doing it for a while. How are we doing? I mean, I look at America around you. Go to any public place in America. What do the people look like that are walking around? Do we look healthy? Do we look well? How's the advice that we've been given worked out? With my own eyes, I'm like, I don't think it's been working out very well. And so, one, I think that. 2, it's paying attention to your own body and how you feel. How did we get to this place where it was like, it was quack or woo-woo or crazy to say getting some real sunlight, going for a walk, being physically active and eating real food ingredients is controversial. And that's crazy conspiracy theory because people have a product they want to sell. Hello. I mean, that's the thing. It's either the drugs are the product or, the food is the product that they want you to buy. So of course they're going to tell you like, oh, that's not enough. You really got to be doing a lot more. Food is medicine. Food is medicine. It can heal you. It can also hurt you if you're eating the wrong food. I'm like, what am I gaining? Like people are like, you just want to get rich off this or something. I'm like, okay. This is just so funny to me because if people were to take my literal advice, my advice is what I just said. It's getting a good night's sleep. It's being around friends and family. It's eating real food. It's going outside and getting this and being in the sun and nature, and being also, of course, connected to God and church and having a faith system. So there's no money for me to be made off that. I mean, there just isn't. And then, people will want to like really poke buttons and be like, well, you have sponsors on your podcast. Like, sue me. I have to make a living. Yeah. But also the sponsors I'm choosing. I mean, every day, my ad team, what about these people? What about this company? What about this? No. I say no to like 90%. We really work with a lot of smaller mom and pop kind of wellness companies that share our value that are making products or supplements or different things. And I'm like, okay, this is great. If somebody wanted to spend money on this, I think it really could improve their life. I really like it. I use it, but obviously it's not like a necessity. You don't need red light therapy to be healthy.
Sure.
You need the sun. You can get the same effects from red light therapy that costs $2,500 to put a red light system in your house. Instead of spending $2,500 on red light therapy, which I do have a red light sponsor, you can go outside during sunrise and sunset. But people want to get mad that I have a red light sponsor. Don't buy it.
Yeah.
Hello? Use common sense. Most of the stuff that we're seeing, it is common sense. It is paying attention to your own body. How am I literally feeling? Am I always tired? Do I always feel sluggish? Do I always feel run down? Am I getting sick constantly all the time? Does my immune system seem really weak? What are you eating? What does your lifestyle look like? And people do not want to pay attention to that because it's convicting and it means that they're going to have to change. And they're mad because they say, well, it's going to cost me more, broken down on my receipt at the grocery store if I were to buy the grass-fed organic food items than I were to buy what I'm buying now. One, I would beg to differ. I honestly would beg to differ. How much of your grocery bill is ultra processed food? That is what is costing people so much money. It is unbelievably expensive. If you just look at even a package of chicken breasts versus the family size of Lay's chips. Just look at this stuff. It is nuts. I mean, and people are like, I can't even get, you can get eggs now. I mean, only for, I think under $3, you can get a carton of eggs, but people want to do Doritos family packs and Hot Pockets and, frozen pizzas. That is what is costing so much. Have the pizza, have a hamburger, eat ice cream. I am pro ice cream. Ice cream is a health food. It is. When it's just, real sugar, real milk, cream, whatever, that is a health food. A little honey, health food. But when you've got monodiglycerides and your ice cream doesn't even melt on the counter after being out for 10 days, which it won't, do a little test with your kids. If you homeschool your kids, say, oh, we're going to do a test. We're going to buy some conventional ice cream at Walmart and we're going to set it on the counter. It will not melt. That isn't real food. So if you are really eating and shopping for only real food, I think your grocery bill is going to be a lot less than you think. You're going to get a lot more food than you think for the amount of money. Health is accessible, but it does require time. So it's not always the most convenient, and it might require, if you want to go the extra mile, I'm not even saying it's required to do organic or grass-fed or anything. If you want to go the extra mile and shop organic, it might cost you a little bit more now. But what I am telling you is the money is coming out whether you want it to or not. It's either going to happen now as you're shopping for your family as they're growing and living under your roof, or it's happening later in your 50s and in your 60s for all of the hospital bills and the medications and the surgeries and what have you, like we had to do with my dad. So it's coming out no matter what. You're spending the money no matter what. It's just your choice when you want to spend it and where. I would prefer prevention than trying to scramble at the end. That is what I would prefer, because I also feel like the peace of mind that's going to come with that prevention is well worth it.
So many people get their information now on social media. And with that being the case, when you go back and start to audit people telling you things about certain types of food, certain types of supplements, and you ask them, where'd you get the information for that? you find out it was on a sales pitch. It was all done inside of a marketing pitch. For people who want to eat healthy, who are well-intentioned on it, how do you advise that they audit the social media that's coming into them and the information that they're getting to know that this is actually going to be good for me? I'm not just buying somebody's sales pitch on that. How much knowledge do they have to adequately eat healthy for their families?
Well, one, you want to be well-trained in reading ingredient labels. So if somebody's telling you to buy some drink or some protein powder or whatever, and you see a bunch of fillers in there and natural flavors or citric acid, guar gum and all of this, I would say avoid. The best way to not accidentally overspend money on wellness products is to get your blood work done. Get your blood work done. How do you know what extra things you need to buy if you don't know what you're lacking? Like, you need to see what deficiencies you've got going on. So I think that's the very, very first place to start entirely. But I interviewed a nutritionist recently and I liked her advice. Is she said, first, start eating real food for 90 days. Commit to 3 months, real food only, not any ultra processed food. Don't even go out to eat. Like, focus on meals at home, because then you can control the ingredients. You know what oils are being used. You know where it's coming from. We're cooking at home for 3 months and we're eating real food for 3 months. Then get your blood work done, because right there, you're going to get your body at a better baseline and kind of see where you're at, and then do that and then see, okay, I have a significant, deficiency in B vitamins or whatever. And then you can go and you can find, a decent supplement brand, again, that's not using a bunch of fillers and weird crap. I like Just Ingredients. I like Taylor Duke's Wellness. I think Thorne is decent. Ancient Nutrition. There's a couple brands that are solid. And not all of them are sponsors of mine at all. But then you can go to them and say, like, okay, I know that I'm deficient in X, Y, and Z, so then I can purchase this. And you're not just like guessing on supplements and stuff. I think that's like a huge mistake. I think a lot of people have supplement fatigue. Like, we have too many and we're doing guesswork on what different herbs and vitamins and things that we need to be taking. But it could really just be as simple as, 3-4 little pills every morning. That's all you really need. You don't need like an entire closet full of supplements. And by the way, I'm one to talk because I have a closet full of supplements, but I get sent so much crap. That's why I'm moving. I got to get an extra room that has another closet.
Just for all the stuff that comes in.
Yeah. And a lot of it I re-gift. So I'll like give as little gifts to friends and family and things like that. But, and brands that want me to test it and see what I think. But I really think health is pretty accessible to people.
Yeah. It sounds like you grew up in church. Mm-hmm. Is that fair to assume?
Yep.
Baptist church, non-denominational?
So I grew up going to First Assemblies of God / non-denominational.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I grew up, I like to refer to it as almost a cult almost. Have you heard of the Independent Fundamental Baptist Church?
No.
Okay. It's crazy talk, but let's just say that it was Baptist.
Okay.
What I notice is this idea of conservative values and who conservatives were when I was growing up in that church was full of conservative people versus what I see today in younger people who are conservative. And specifically when it comes to the food and the choices that are being made around it. We used to have this church fellowship every Sunday night, and there was nothing there to drink except for Coke, Fanta, a lot of diet products that were there too, and coffee. Like, that was all that was there. There wasn't any healthy food on the entire display or on that platter. I find it interesting now that conservatives have kind of become the ones who are talking about health more so than anyone else. But there seems to be a generational gap between what older conservatives we're talking about, what they care about health-wise versus what younger conservatives are thinking about now. What do you think that means for what the conservatives and what the party looks like physically 30 years from now because of the moms that are thinking about this stuff now when the last generation wasn't?
That's such a good question. Conservatives are going to be so hot. We're already hot. Like, arguably, I think we are the most attractive voters in the country. I mean, just go to a Turning Point conference and look around. It's very obvious. 30 years from now, the kids that are growing up with the MAHA moms, they're going to be even hotter. Like, it is going to be unbelievable attractiveness, I think, and health, and people just operating on all cylinders. And I'm so excited for what the future will really look like. And I know that there is a gap with the older generation and all the health stuff because they were really taught health is exercise and movement. Being healthy is she exercises a lot. They are really, really slowly figuring out and understanding what we're saying, that honestly, yes, movement is good. It's important. We do need to be moving. But even more important, I would say arguably, is the food, that the food is poison and that you're not eating real food. And the food is as addictive as heroin, and they're pumping it full of chemicals. The cigarette companies fired their scientists when people stopped smoking cigarettes. Those scientists were all hired by the ultra processed food companies to make their food as addictive as cigarettes, and it has worked. And that is why you are seeing so many people that are fat. Honestly, my hot take is people are not morbidly obese because of a lack of self-discipline and because they're lazy. There's a very small element of that. I think the majority of people that are morbidly obese are dealing with an addiction, the likes of which we cannot comprehend. It is the pack of Oreo cookies. It is the bucket of KFC that is as dangerous and lethal as that syringe. And you have to start understanding the way that our food has been weaponized to fully understand that. But as much as they want to stop eating, they can't. The chemicals are completely hijacking people's brains. That is why when I say original Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich, immediately you just tasted it.
Yeah.
It's chemically engineered to do that. I mean, if I even say like Granny Smith apple, okay, I kind of have an idea of what that tastes like, but it varies, right? It's like, because it's real food. And so sometimes I've had good Granny Smith apples that are really juicy and really sour. Sometimes I haven't had very good ones. It's like, it's kind of all over the place, but it is always the same thing when I say like Whopper or Chick-fil-A sandwich or a Pringle. You know exactly what that tastes like. I mean, that is that addictive chemical warfare that's happening. And so the older generation has to kind of come to grips with that. And it's hard to hear that everything that maybe you were taught and that you taught your kids was fake. The food pyramid that we grew up with in the 90s, that millennials grew up with, was completely fake, bought and paid for by different industries. It was not good advice. The fat-free craze of the 90s, completely fake, horrible advice. We need fat. Fat is good for us. The trans fat craze. Well, trans fats saying we're going to get rid of fat, but we're going to do trans fat. That was giving everyone heart attacks. Then you had GMOs introduced into the food system. I mean, you know, butter is bad for you. Red meat is bad for you. All of this was garbage. And we got super fat and sick because of it. And I think that's hard because people love their children, and the older generation doesn't want to say, I totally, steered my kids in the wrong direction and I am responsible. Nobody wants to admit that they made a mistake as a parent, I think. And so I think that's why you have a lot of older generations with their heads in the sand, because of what that could mean if they were to admit what was done to us.
I want to do something that is similar to what Bill Maher does, kind of in the middle of his show there, because I think we're at a point in the conversation where this is going to be non-political conspiracy theories that are out there. So we're going to do basically one person's conspiracy is another person's facts. It's going to be a true or false game.
Yes.
Or you can pass if you need to pass and say, I don't
so
want to
it's
talk about
my
that
opinion
issue.
if it's true or false.
Exactly.
Okay.
Is it more likely true? You say true.
Okay.
If it's more likely false,
I like
you
it.
say false.
Okay.
I got 9 of these, okay? You ready for some of them? The USA never landed on the moon.
False. I guess I'm like the last person in the conservative movement that thinks we went to the moon. I still want to believe.
Bigfoot is real.
True.
The Titanic was an inside job.
False.
9/11 was an inside job.
True.
Area 51 holds alien bodies.
True. 100% true. That is true.
The Earth is flat.
False.
Tupac is still alive in Cuba.
False.
Taylor Swift, who I know you love, is a covert government psyop.
False. 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 And she's not a witch either.
Last but not least, the world ended in 2012. We're just living in a simulation.
True.
What's a non-political conspiracy that you, regardless of what anyone says, like the one you're most passionate about, like is 100% true? My favorite non-political conspiracy is that birds aren't real.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah. I do love that.
I got that one from Bill Maher. He was like, "You ever seen a baby pigeon before?"
Yeah, you've never seen a baby pigeon. So, okay. So yes, I needed you to jog my memory. Listen, just hear me out. I've never seen a pregnant Asian woman. Ever in my life. You see Asian women with babies. You see Asian women pushing strollers. Never seen an Asian woman pregnant. Huh. So I don't know what's going on there.
That's an interesting one. I've not heard that before.
Yeah.
What do you think about the chemtrails?
Chemtrails are real. We know, I mean, they've had to talk about it at the UN. That's a real thing that they're doing. Cloud seeding, it's all real. Making it rain, but not in the fun way.
Do you think that there's anything with that and what we've talked about with the food? Maybe it's not the food. Maybe it's the chemtrails. Maybe that's where the chemicals are coming from. Not so much the food.
No, it's all of the above. I like when we talk about autism rates and things like that. I don't like when people are like vaccines cause autism. I'm like, some of them maybe, like that might be what tipped over somebody's bucket. This is my personal opinion, maybe. But also I think it's a combination of what mom ate with baby in utero. I think it's the chemicals in our environment. It's the chemicals on our crops, our skies. I think it's a lot of things that are contributing to a lot of these issues.
What are the things that the Make America Healthy Again movement are going to do to hold the pharmaceutical companies accountable? Are there movements and things that are going to happen that you're confident about in the next 4 years to hold them accountable?
Yeah, there's already been moves that have started to be made. I know they're trying to stop the revolving door of, you're allowed to work at the FDA and approve a bunch of drugs and then move on to now you get to work for Pfizer. Like now they offer you a great cushy job because you were so nice to them when you were working at the FDA. I think we're going to try to put a kibosh on all of that. And then, we've done so many things already so far that we've accomplished. We've, eliminated food dyes. Donald Trump just, at the time we're recording this, he just announced that Coca-Cola has agreed to stop using high fructose corn syrup in their drinks, instead use real cane sugar. That's huge. Soda is never going to be a health food, but it is meant to be an occasional treat, and that's fine. You should be able to go have a fast food hamburger and a soda and a French fry occasionally. We can't even really do that. I wouldn't do that now. But with it being real cane sugar, I mean, that's a huge step in the right direction. Like, that's why, like, anytime I go out to eat, they say, oh, we have Mexican Sprite or Mexican Coke. I'm like, oh, well, that would be a good treat because it's a glass bottle and it's cane sugar. So that's super exciting. We're getting fluoride out a bunch of different states, removing that from their water. We are, going back and retesting the childhood vaccine schedule to see what really is actually necessary on there and what isn't. We're looking into the causes of autism. We are also getting a bunch of states to remove soda off of SNAP. That's supposed to be supplemental nutrition. There's nothing nutritious about soda, and Coca-Cola is making the majority of their annual money from the SNAP program.
Is that right?
Specifically SNAP. Wow. So we've got that. They are incentivized to keep getting people, underprivileged groups, to be addicted to soda from the SNAP program. It's evil. And these are, a lot of single moms and stuff use SNAP. So we don't want that for those kids. There's a lot of things that I'm really excited about, and hopefully getting those pharma ads off TV.
What about criminalizing the actions of executives and companies like Purdue Pharma?
It's hard.
If they can just get away with a fine, it becomes part of the business model of just, we pay the fine, that's maybe 6 months of profit, and then we go on and we do the next one and the next one after that. Is there going to be a move made to put some bad people behind bars and give them an incentive to maybe think twice about killing people 30 years from now, instead of this idea of, you didn't shoot him with a gun in the face. You didn't go Luigi Mangione on him. You just killed him 30 years later, right. Early death.
So true. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about the legal aspect of like ramifications of different corruption going on, but I would be all for it. Yeah, I mean, the Purdue Pharma case is such a good example, but that's still ongoing. It has been going on for like, I don't even know, 20 years or something at this point. It's crazy, 15, 20 years. And that's the thing. They're so powerful. They have so much money. They have so many connections politically in the government. it's hard. It's going to take multiple generations to kind of undo the web of corruption that has been allowed to develop, unfortunately.
I think it's in the justice system too. This idea that if you don't cause immediate harm to someone, then we don't penalize you the same way. If I left here today, stalked somebody and shot him, I might get the death penalty for that. One person. But if I decided that I'm going to go pay a bunch of doctors to downplay how bad it is to ingest gasoline and then go get a bunch of models to start microdosing gasoline and then make a product around that, and I make hundreds of millions of dollars, I'm just going to pay a fine, and I might be inducing early death by 20 or 30 years on some people who think that microdosing gasoline is the next way to get a six-pack or to be healthy. That it seems like we're so far off in the justice system, and I just wonder if the lobby is too big for us to ever have a true impact on holding some real criminals who've affected hundreds of thousands of people accountable, compared to me just going out and shooting somebody in the head.
It very well could be. It could be too big and too powerful, which is why educating the consumer is what is so crucial. Talking about seed oils, talking about artificial food dyes and the effects on behavior. And that is really the key. And having the consumer buying certain products and not others. I mean, I think that's why you're seeing companies like Siete Chips and Poppy getting bought out by huge companies. Primal Kitchen sauces bought by Kraft, Huge Chocolate bought. These are all really clean, great food companies that are all getting bought up because they're making money. They're watching the consumers actively, purposefully choose those brands over others. And they're like, okay, we want to get in on this. And that's why I do have faith for a lot of these products. They're not going to be changing ingredients once they're bought, because I think they don't want to upset the base. Like these people want it for that reason, that they are clean. They like the ingredients as is. So I don't think they would be stupid enough to change it, but you still always want to check. But, so far Primal Kitchen's been bought by Kraft for years and years and years, and those ingredients are still the same.
So more likely that we get changed by grassroots consumers making massive changes than by politicians.
Yeah.
Making laws that change us.
Absolutely. Yeah. You don't rely on the government. The famous Ronald Reagan quote, if the government knocks on your door and says, it's the government, we're here to help, like slam the door in their face. So it is totally up to you. And that's why there is freedom in having your health, because you don't have to rely so heavily on somebody else. You know that they don't have your back. Your health insurance company, your conventional doctor, your conventional general practitioner, they had less than a day of nutritional education when they were in med school. They're not getting any. Now, I just saw Texas, I think it was Texas, said they're going to start making it mandatory for doctors that go to school in Texas to get more nutritional training, which I think is great. So those are the types of rules that we can start putting in place. If we start getting our healthcare professionals on the same page, because a lot of these people, nutritionists, dietitians, whatever, they go to school and the entire curriculum is paid for by Big Food. So it's literally the curriculum, what they're learning is bought and paid for. That's why this is so evil and super scary. Is we cannot be having that. I think the power really does lie with us. And then when you have your health, the freedom in that is wow, I feel good. I can go do what I want. I can go do anything. I can run my mission, not even literally, but yes, literally you can run, but you can run your mission well when you are thinking clearly and feeling great.
So the people who are hating on you, I love how you're positioned, because they have to hate on something that's so reasonable and so obvious of sunlight is good for you.
Yes.
You make them take that stance.
So let's talk about something funny. The people that hate on me have to hate on something that seems so obvious and true and good for you. Here's a great example. The Guardian wrote an article about me and a couple other women in the conservative health movement that said that we were running a psyop to turn American women thin, fertile, and Republican. Now, this made me laugh out loud, because I said, well, what is the alternative? Fat, Democrat, mentally ill? What is wrong with being, now I understand they're not going to like Republican, but being thin and fertile, okay, I don't mean literal thin oh my gosh, Kate Moss, 1990s anorexia, okay? thin, healthy, right? You're healthy. You're not morbidly obese. And then fertile, well, fertility is wonderful. I mean, fertility doesn't necessarily, if you're not fertile, that doesn't necessarily mean you're not healthy. There's a lot of things that could be going on. So don't get me wrong on this. But obviously, if somebody wants the choice, the option, wouldn't fertility be just like a great thing as a woman to have? And then, of course, yeah, Republican. Well, I'm not shy about the fact that I'm conservative. Of course, I want more women to be conservative. But I just thought that article was hilarious. And so that clip, well, I did a speech and I said that. I said, like, so, you know, the Guardian accused me of running a psyop to turn women, you know, Republican, thin and fertile. And I just want to come out and say that the rumors are true. And so I said that. It's kind of like a tongue in cheek, making fun of them for writing that article about me, because it's just ridiculous. And the left just picked up on that clip this week, and now it's going viral all over again. They're like, this is insane. How evil is this woman? What's wrong with her? How dare she tell young women that they should be thin and fertile? I'm like, and all of the women in the comments, by the way, are all fat, ugly, purple hair. All of them. I click on all of their comments. They're like, oh my gosh, this girl's disgusting. She hates women. How could you tell a girl? And all of them look like that. I'm like, you are not healthy in all aspects. It's not giving health. It's not giving health. So, yeah, I think it's funny. Like, I don't think that that's a crazy thing to ask for, to say that women should be, you know, whatever is fit for you. And then fertility, I don't know. I mean, again, this wasn't my original quote. It was the Guardian's, and I'm just kind of making fun of it and being like, sure, yeah, that's what I want. I didn't come out first and say that I'm trying to turn women, you know, but I'll keep it going.
What about when people twist your words? Because I feel like for people that don't have a huge audience or that don't do a lot of public speaking, they just do a little bit. They get quite perturbed at someone twisting their words and it's taken out of context in the wrong way. I have to imagine with your level of notoriety that happens at scale. If all you did was just correct people's contextual observations of things that you've said, you'd probably spend a full-time job just doing that. How do you handle the misrepresentation of someone that takes those words out of context and not have that affect you or your audience?
Oh, I just don't care. Sometimes I will call out, or I'll be like, okay, this is not what I meant by this, because it's like so egregious. And I'll be like, this is not what I said, you know, Washington Post or Media Matters or whoever it is. For the most part, though, I enjoy it. I like the hit pieces. I think it's fun. So I don't mind if people are talking about the show in a critical way, then they're talking about the show, because somebody is going to pull up my show because they saw that it was so evil and horrible and ruining women and whatever and dangerous. And so they're going to listen and they're going to get red pilled and they're going to, you know, realize that conservatives aren't that bad, aren't that scary, and they're going to learn something that's going to improve their health or their family's health. And that's a win for me. So I don't really care why they listen to me. If you listen because you hate or you listen because you love it, you're listening. And those downloads help me out.
Yeah. So the average person that gets started in content sees some hate messages come through and you're over there kind of like, keep it coming, let's go. Like, hate on me. That's engagement.
Oh, well, okay. Let me tell you something really funny that I do. So my reels that promote my episodes, they always have very dramatic suspense music, if you really pay attention. Mm-hmm. And my editor and I laugh out loud when we see the comments roll in that are like, I mean, I understand the content, like this content is great, but like, why does the music have to be so dramatic? Like, this is just like so over the top for what they're talking about. And I'm like, this is a strategy. This is so basically one thing with my brand, everything that has to do with my brand, I decide. From the clips that get shown to promote the episode to the music in the background, you know, all of those things, I decide. And that Alex style has really kept my brand unique and authentic and true to me as I've kind of moved and grown throughout the years when it comes to making content, is that I've always maintained 100% creative control. That doesn't mean I don't have people helping me. I have a social media manager. I have editors. I don't know how to edit, but I'll sit there next to the editor and we will go through the entire episode and we will pull what I think are the juiciest, most salacious or emotion getting clips that will get people thinking and want to be and hook them to want to watch the episode. And then I will sit there with the editor and we will order them in order. This clip has to go here. This is going to be in the first 3 seconds, the most powerful to get people to say, wait, what are they saying? And then this clip is next. And then we're going to do this clip and we're going to end on this. And I will sit there and like edit with her the entire time. I could easily just be like, you do it or whatever. But when I have done that before, I don't think the clips do as well than when I'm involved. And so I don't want to give up that control. But like, yeah, it's hilarious to me when people are like, well, why does this music have to be so dramatic? I'm like, because you're watching, Betsy. You're watching the show. That's why you stopped and you watched an entire minute, 30 seconds. And now you're going, well, what's this episode about? If I did boring music or no music they're like, well, why do they have to be zooming in, zooming out? Every 3 seconds, it's like, it's a cut in the clip. I'm like, because I'm getting your attention. I am 10 steps ahead of you. I understand what it takes to get you invested in my content. And the reason your content is failing is because you do not take the same amount of time that I'm taking to sit down with people to make that happen. You don't take the time. That's why your clips suck. Like it is an all-consuming, being available 24/7 on the weekends, whatever, to reach out to my team about a news story, to have my head in the game, to know what's going on, know what we should be posting. It never ends. And so to people that are like, well, I really just want, a 9 to 5, and I'm like, then you're going to fail. That took in the beginning stages. Now there's different systems you can use to kind of help out, like automated systems. But in the beginning stages of launching my shows and things with Turning Point, I was for hours every day. All I would do was respond to every comment, every DM. Every comment, every DM. And we would have interns or whatever that would help me out. I didn't even have a social media manager at the time, but they'd be like, you can have an intern. And I'd tell the intern, we're answering everyone. And people would be like, I don't really think that's productive to spend 6 hours on this. And I'm like, it is productive because you are building a relationship with the audience. That person thinks that they are talking to a real person. Now they have a friendship with this entity, with this brand. Now they're invested in anything you say to do. It's the strategy. If they think they're talking to a robot or nobody that's there, then like they're not bought in. So I personally respond in my DMs. Still to this day, I read for the most part, every DM. I try to respond to everyone. I respond to a lot throughout the day. Now my following is too big. I can't respond to every single one, but I do try, or at least hard to acknowledge it. Like I read it or whatever, appreciate you. And now I have a team that can kind of help to screen things, but that's a super important aspect of it. But yeah, there are things that we do that are for the name of the game and to grow the show. And I don't understand villainizing a podcaster or a content creator for doing those moves. It is a business. I have a job. I have to make money too. I have to pay rent. Yeah. So there's so many things I could talk about with social media strategy and things like that.
I love that because it's the business that is Alex Clark.
Yeah.
The people I talk to on a daily basis that are aspiring business owners that want to get started, some of the flaws that I hear from them as we sit here and talk right now about the work that you're putting into your show, they'd say, oh, she's got so many followers, she's over 1 million followers, and she has a team. There's people that are doing all this stuff for her. I just want to be the talent. I sit down, I shoot the podcast, and then somebody else just takes care of it. And you're like,
yeah. Now I will say, like, being with a company that's producing your show. So like Turning Point USA produces my show. So they provide me with the team and the salary infrastructure to be able to hire a social media manager, editors, all of those things. There will probably be a time just getting started with the podcast or content creation. You are the shooter, editor, content planner, you're doing everything yourself. And then ideally you're consistent, and then you get to a point where the money is coming in through ad revenue or whatever, that you then can hire one part-time editor to help you throughout the week edit your reels and stuff like that, which makes a huge difference. But you got these kids that are in high school that are using CapCut and stuff like that. I'm sure you could find somebody that'd be like, hey, I'll pay you $20 a reel or whatever. I also always tell people, like, find a niche, have consistency. So one, especially when it comes to politics, let's just use that as an example. Well, I want to work in the conservative movement. I want to be a content creator in the conservative movement. Great. There's 1 million of them. What are you going to be doing to stand out? I'm covering health and wellness from a conservative perspective. Before this, I was covering pop culture. I wasn't trying to be just like talking about the news in general. Like, I just have a podcast. I talk about whatever the news of the day is. That is one of the hardest lanes to get into when it comes to political content creation. You have to stand out in that genre. You have to be an absolute superstar, like a Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens. That's why they have millions of followers, because they're just a superstar.
Yeah.
Most of us are not superstars. I'm not a superstar, but I am really good at knowing my niche and being consistent. So when I tell my audience that my episodes come out every Monday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, you better believe if it is 5 minutes past and my content hasn't come up, I'm texting my team saying, where is this? I am on it. Every time I'm checking, make sure, has it gone out at that time on that day? If we're behind, I'm like telling my audience it's coming. We're having a technical difficulty. You know, I am in there being consistent, because the appointment setting of them relying on your content, your episode always comes out on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. That's setting an appointment for them to know to come back and listen to your content. If you are like, yeah, I want to be a podcaster, you know, some months I get it out every week, some months I get it out every 3 weeks, like, you're going to fail. You're screwed. 80% of people that start a podcast will abandon it within like the first year. It's one of the hardest ventures to get into. Because it does require so much work and so much consistency. With my podcast, I'm just going to be honest with you. We were doing well for 3 years, and it was like slow trajectory, like pretty much plateaued, doing okay, like staying in the same spot for 3 years. I switched, figured out, no, I am passionate. My genre is health and wellness, because before it was just an interview show. It was like I'm doing countercultural interviews on a myriad of different subjects. And then I hyper focused on health and wellness. My downloads quadrupled. It was so crazy overnight success that we ran the numbers 7 times. We thought there was a typo in the numbers. That type of success can happen to you with consistency and figuring out what makes you an expert, what makes you stand out, what's special, unique about you. I'm not an expert, but I do have a niche, and I interview the experts within my niche.
It seems like most people aren't willing to do that 3 years
yes.
of figuring out what's
and that's why most
first.
people will abandon it. And so don't give up. Like, keep doing the podcast, because you don't know when you're finally going to get the guest, or you're going to hit the right subject that's just going to take off, go viral. And so it is like a labor of love for a while. And I mean, you hear that with like so many people. Some of the biggest podcasts, it was like, it's very, very rare that immediately you create a podcast and it's just like an overnight success, like Call Her Daddy or something. I mean, that's very rare. A lot of them, the really, really top successful ones, were like, oh, we didn't start seeing anything for like 3, 4, 5 years. So yeah, hopefully that encourages people, and not like, oh no, another 4 years of nothing.
People need to hear it though, because I think that in anything in life, doing it consistently and being disciplined about it. One question specifically on the podcast though, you talk about the niche and how digging into that niche really pushed you forward. Is it the consistency, the niche, or the guest? If you had to pick one that makes a podcast so successful.
It's all 3 of that. And also something that we're not talking about, it is the quality of your audio, light, and sound. Your audio, camera, light, all of that also matters. If it looks like your podcast is being filmed through a potato, nobody's going to watch it. If it sounds like you recorded it through a potato, nobody's going to listen to it. That's why what you're doing, like, I love that this was in person. So many people want to interview me virtually. I'm like, mistake, because the quality is so much better when it's face to face. The chemistry is better. Visually, it looks better on clips. And your guest is going to want to, by the way, if you get a big guest and it's virtual, it's like, it just looks like crap virtually. If you get a big guest and it's in person, or somebody that just has a larger following than you, it looks good, it sounds good, edit it up, they're going to be more likely to share those clips with their audience. Even if all they have is 10,000 followers, it's 10,000 people being exposed to your content. They like it, they see it, they share it to their, like, it's an ongoing effect like that. So if I had to choose, I think guests are probably the quickest, easiest path to download success in podcasting. Yes. If I was an absolute nobody and had never even posted an episode before, and I interviewed Tucker Carlson, like I just interviewed Tucker, which is the biggest guest I've ever had, that episode is going to do phenomenal, because it's an interview with Tucker Carlson, or, anyone else big, or people that have even if their following isn't huge, but they have such a specific, fascinating expertise in something. Like, so many episodes of mine have gone viral, and it's like, really like a nobody doctor or expert on something, and like they don't have a very big following, but they are so freaking gifted at talking about whatever it is they're obsessed with. that it does phenomenally. Like that you wouldn't think, but because they're so good on camera and they're like, this is what you need to know, whatever, it'll do well.
How much of that is you pulling that out of them, though? If they don't have the big social following, isn't that for a reason that they need someone to bring it out?
Yeah. And I mean that. And so, yes, being a good interviewer, setting the standard, making your guests feel comfortable, all of that definitely plays a role in like prepping for your guests. I do spend a lot of time. My process with guest prep is, one, I'm like trying to read or watch a lot of what they've done, going through their socials, combing through their Instagrams, reading their Twitter feed. I'm doing all of that, but also I'm like thinking about what I know about them, their expertise, and I'm kind of thinking for a couple days, like in my mind, running through the interview in my mind, like, okay, I think I should start with this and then move on to this and then move on with this. That's what I did with Tucker. Before I interviewed Tucker Carlson, I spent a couple days. My team is like, are you working on your questions? Because there's nothing in the doc. I'm like, I'm working on it. I'm like, I marinate on it. It's just like a creative process that I do. But I kind of run through the interview multiple times in my head. And then I'm like, okay, I know exactly now, like the trajectory of where I want the interview to go. Like I want to start here. I want to end up here. This is where I want to put the really controversial part. I want to end on this. Like I kind of do that and then I start writing it down. And some people, like Joe Rogan, I don't think he writes questions down. He just like talks. That's a special gifted type of conversationalist that, I could only aspire to be. But I am a write every question down type of person. And then I'm open to where does the conversation take us? Like, do they start talking about something I had no idea? Well, sure, let's go there. And then I'm capable of improving. I think having those skills. And by the way, as a podcaster, doing improv classes is really, really good for developing and growing your talent as an interviewer, I think.
You ever been on Bill Maher?
No.
Would you do it?
I would be nervous because I don't enjoy debate formats. I like his show. Actually, I do like Bill Maher. But I'm not, I don't enjoy it. Like some people really thrive. Like my friend Allie Stuckey, who's a great podcast, Relatable. She loves debates. She just told me that she was signing up to do one of those Jubilee debates where it's like her versus 25 people. I was like, I would literally poop my pants. Like I cannot in a million years. I would never do that. I would start crying. Like, and it's not because I don't know what I believe or anything. I just get anxiety and those types of high pressure situations. And Bill Maher, it's like you've got a live studio audience. He's not on your side. He's really questioning you. And like, oh my gosh, what if I forget some kind of statistic or factors? That's what I would do. Yeah. And I like blank in those moments. And so I'm like, I don't do that. When I first got hired by Turning Point, that was like, I was very adamant in the interview process. I said, do not hire me if your plan for me is to send me out to college campuses to do debates like Charlie and Candace. I will not do it. Do not hire me. I'll stay in radio because I was working in pop radio. And they were like, no, we're not. Like, you do your show, you do what you want to do. That's fine. Not everybody has to do that. I'm like, great, because I'll never do it. I will quit before you make me do that. So yeah, we all have different skill levels and different things that we're comfortable with. And some people would be like, I would hate reading a teleprompter or something. If I have to do that for some kind of video, like I hate doing that, but I love a live debate. So everybody's different. And I think also that's a strength as a talent, is knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are in the first place and knowing what to say no to, because you're going to put yourself in a situation to look stupid. I will just straight up tell somebody I don't know the answer to that, or no, I'm not going to do that, because I'm like, that's going to put me in a position to fail. I'll tell you, one time I let somebody talk me into a risk. I knew it was going to be a disaster for me, and I didn't listen, and I should have listened to my intuition and put my foot down, and I didn't. I was like, oh, fine, I'll give it a chance. And that was going on the Whatever podcast. I regret going on that podcast so much. It is not my cup of tea. It is not my format. You're debating with a bunch of freaking red pill incel creeps that hate women. And even though I have all the values that they claim to want in a woman, I'm still a woman and they hate me. And it was like, the whole audience was on attack. Nobody liked me. It was just like super degrading, super dark atmosphere. Then you've got like OnlyFans girls on the panel with you. I hated that experience. And I failed. I didn't like when people were like attacking me and going at me from the audience, or the host was questioning me or whatever, like I just clammed up, and then I get nervous, and it wasn't putting myself in a situation to succeed as a talent. And I said, I'll never go on that show again, and I'll never do a show like that again. The Fresh and Fit, whatever podcasts, those types of formats, hate.
Yeah. Knowing what those podcasts are all about, what were your thoughts going into that podcast on what it would be good for your brand, what you thought was
It
going to
wasn't.
happen.
It wasn't. That was why I was very much like, I don't understand why I need to do this show. And the feedback I was getting was, you need to do it. It's a huge audience. Like, it's just exposure. The clips will go viral. I'm like, yes, in theory, the clips go viral if you're Candace or Charlie, who are good at debating and all that. But because I'm not, I didn't appear strong. I had no good usable clips, and it was just a waste of my time, and it like was degrading. So, you know, the more confident you get to, I feel a lot more comfortable saying no to certain things. I'm like, I'm just not going to be good at discussing that, or I'm not going to be, you know, I just don't know enough about this subject to talk about it.
Yeah. I'm not so sure that you wouldn't do great on Bill Maher. I think I'm going to see you on Bill Maher here not too far in the future. And I don't
Maybe.
think that he's going to disagree with you all that much with what you have to say,
Yeah, maybe
particularly
not.
on this stuff right here.
Now, see, I would love to interview Bill. I would love to interview Bill on my show. I think he would be fun to interview. And that's what I feel so much more comfortable. It's very rare, like, I feel better being the person asking the questions. It's hard. It's like a little uncomfy for me to be the one being asked questions. But it's fun for me to be the interviewer.
Yeah. For the business audience out there, in my world, I know that nobody gets good at stuff unless they've failed 1,000 times. But when I look at your resume, particularly on the radio side, you go from interning to then having a top radio show yourself to then going to the Turning Point USA, and then the platform you just had Tucker Carlson on your podcast. It looks like it just went like this. What's the biggest failure you've ever had that contributed to where you are today?
I've never been asked this question. I can think of a lot of more like small, medium-sized mistakes that have been made in the course of my brand. One of the biggest ones was I had made, when we talk about appointment setting, I had made a decision that every day at a certain time, my first show, a pop culture show that I did, was going to be posted to Instagram at 4 p.m. every single day, Monday through Friday. Overnight, I was given advice that we should yank it from Instagram and we should start posting that show on YouTube. That the audience would just follow me there, and this would be a better decision financially because you can't make any money off Instagram. Like, we wouldn't be able to monetize the show, but if we put it on YouTube, we can start monetizing the show and having some sort of like income from the show. Did that, lost like a massive amount of my audience. They refuse to follow over to YouTube because we're dealing with millennial moms who don't watch YouTube. They are Instagram people. YouTube audience is a completely different audience than Instagram. And I had built a loyal cult following on Instagram. And so to overnight say, hey, we're making a change, we're going over here, bye, it was catastrophic. I still feel some type of way about being given that advice. But I think my failures, I guess you're right that I haven't had any tremendous, massive failures, but like you could categorize like my decision to do a very broad interview show where I'm doing true crime, parenting, health, pop culture, all of that. Like that was a failure. It wasn't until I got serious about focusing on one subject matter that the show exploded.
Or maybe failure is the wrong word for it too, because if I look at a lot of people that myself included on the business side, not every business that you learn something from, you lost money in. Some of them you just didn't make millions in, but it got you where you are. And the way you talk about your podcast too, I'm curious specifically about interviewing people. When I scroll through your Instagram and I see you next to Ed Sheeran and you next to Taylor Swift and you next to Selena Gomez, did you ever bomb an interview where you that I'll never do that again and I'm going to get better and study my craft and go to the improv classes? Or were you just naturally gifted at that? I know you mentioned when you were at intern at the radio station, they said, hey, like you need to go have your own show.
Yeah.
Was it just natural gift or did you work to become a great interviewer?
I think it was a natural gift. I do. I think I have been able to develop it over time and using that skill and practicing. I think that I've always had a knack for asking fun, interesting, different, thought-provoking questions. I remember interviewing Ed Sheeran in my radio days, so nobody will be able to find this now because it was like before we recorded stuff. I interviewed him on the radio and we started getting into a conversation about, does he believe girls don't poop? That's the conspiracy theory that he believes in that's non-political, is Ed Sheeran believes girls don't poop. And so that was really funny and hilarious. And like, you know, how often do you hear like an A-list celebrity talking about that? So I think that is just a part of my personality. I'm very inquisitive and I like to just say out loud whatever I'm thinking. Biggest mistakes along the way made with that is, I guess it isn't front-facing mistakes that people would know. It is like having to learn the hard way that because I say exactly what I'm thinking in the moment, that can hurt people's feelings on my team. It's like learning how to deal with people behind the scenes, knowing I don't need to like express every failure. So I'm just open and I just like say things out loud because it's how I process things. So if we do an episode that is a failure, like the episode sucks, nobody likes it, the downloads are not there, I will just say, I have a tendency to just say to my whole team, everyone that works on my show, this episode sucked. It was a complete failure. We've got to do better next week or whatever. And then like somebody kind of gently like mentioned to me, they were like, Alex, you can't like be doing that all the time. Like tell them when they do a great job, you know, you can say there's room for improvement or whatever, but just be like, this sucked. It was awful. I'm like, well, I'm not upset with them or anything. I'm just like processing out loud. Like, I'm just keeping it candid. I'm just keeping it real. They're like, I know, but like they work on it too. So it's their hard work and they get their feelings hurt because, oh, I've spent all this time and now she's saying it sucks. And I'm like, but I don't blame them. I never have ever blamed my team or anyone that works on my show in years past or whatever for a show not doing well. I always blame myself. And so if anything, I'm like saying it out loud, like, I messed this up. Like I didn't choose a good enough guest. I didn't pick the right clips. I didn't ask better questions. So I always put the blame on me. I never put the blame on them, but I guess sometimes they can take it that way. So I think over time, that's been a big growth moment for me is learning like better ways to communicate with a team that can inspire them to do better, but not burn them out. And I think my personality, I have to be careful because I could get into burnout territory with people.
Yeah.
And that's like very self-reflective. I've never said that out loud. I've never said that like publicly to anybody.
I think it's interesting. Just a closing remark from me, a flop for you. I probably know 100 people that would cry tears of joy to see that level of results.
Oh, that's like a good perspective.
You have done some amazing things. I love your perspective. I love how willing you are to just say what you think and take these controversial stands. But as we sit here and we're finishing up, I think, well, maybe they shouldn't be all that controversial. It all seems very reasonable. So thanks for doing this. It's a different kind of podcast for us that's less business and so much more. But these elements of MAHA and what you're doing with it, I love it. And I appreciate you for sharing these elements about building a personal brand, because every business owner out there is thinking the same thing. How do I grow and scale more on social media? You've already perfected that. You're doing that right now and building your own personal brand. And if we could tap into some of that, we would all sell more products at the same time as well. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And, you know, there's still lots of room to grow. There's still lots of milestones that I want to hit that we haven't hit. Maybe it'll be Bill Maher, but I don't know.
Bill Maher. I think you're very modest, but I think Bill Maher's in your future. So
thank you.
Thanks for doing this.
Absolutely.